Everyone, and welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting, Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, 8:30 a.m. As always, in our country, we start with an invocation and a pledge. If Dr. Paul McLaughlin, Assistant Pastor with Bible Baptist Church, can come forward and give us our invocation.
Well, thank you. I'm always humbled and thankful that you would have me come back each time to pray it during this invocation. And this morning, Councilwoman Miss Mary Ann asked me to say, pray hard. Amen. So let's pray. If anything, it's on her. Amen. Heavenly Father, who art in heaven, today we come before you with heavy hearts of what is taking place in America and the world around us. We also come before you with praise and thanksgiving. We acknowledge you as our sovereign and creator. Lord, we pray for our Jerusalem and those in leadership that you have placed over us. We pray for our president, our governor, and those in Manatee County. We ask that their hearts would be guided by you, Lord, that their decisions would be wise and that their leadership would be principled with integrity and in truth. We pray for healing in our country and that the lawlessness and evil would cease. Oh God, protect us and revive us as a people that need your presence in our hearts and lives. Help each and every one of us, oh Lord, to heed 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Father God, we commit this meeting and this day to you by faith. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Good morning. We do not have any proclamations or presentations this morning.
Okay, we at this time go to citizen comment. I have one card. Please come forward. Carolyn Fairbank. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, members of council and folks in the audience. My name is Carolyn Fairbank. I've lived for the last 7 years at 606 3rd Avenue West, which is the Riversong apartment complex. I believe that all of you should have by now received a copy of the packet that I handed out with pictures and the concerns that I'm raising. I've been trying to get this issue at least addressed by someone for over a year. So I'm really thankful that I'm able to do this today. The reason, of course, for those who don't know, is, and you'll see in the pictures, we live in Riversong Apartments, and I believe that the parabolic discs that were a donation from a very nice couple and the Mosaic Amphitheater were built before the apartments and homes along that way. So that's been a long time that they've been there. Unfortunately, there was no pre-planning that there was going to be something apparently there behind it. And what happens, and you can see in the pictures I sent, the set of parabolic discs are meant for people to walk in and say something, and it, of course, just amplifies your voice. If you hadn't know anything about small kids, they don't speak in a normal voice ever. So what happens is they come into those discs and they scream at the top of their lungs. There have been days, and unfortunately I had a video of it. There was one Saturday a couple of weeks ago where I just videotaped the waves of kids and their parents in many cases that would come over to those discs and just stand there and scream in those discs. And sometimes it went on for a couple of minutes. They would come back and do it again. I've had it happen up until 11:30, even at midnight some nights for older kids. I also have a picture. You can see how close the parabolic discs are to the people who live on the first floor of our apartment. Those people have now moved out. And also in this picture, I live on the 4th floor. The 2 floors below me, the folks had to work so they couldn't be here today. The people on the 1st floor have moved out. There is a person, another resident named Colleen Brennan and her mother, who live right across from this area, and they hear it as well. And she would, again, she'd like to have been here, but she had to work today. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because I know Riverwalk is being extended, and that's wonderful, that's awesome. But you'll also see in the pictures that I gave you that there is a ton of vacant room. Absolutely nothing going on. Past the skate park, all the way down past there. There's a lot of room where I'm hoping there'd be some consideration to have these things moved. If you've never heard it or experienced it, you don't have any idea what that's like when you're sitting on your porch and you have this literally screaming in those discs. It's really not pleasant.
All right, thank you. That's your 3 minutes.
Wow.
All right, and I have no other comments at this time. I would like to, I did get that letter also, and I got it last year, and I had reached out, and I believe I talked with somebody over there about it, and so it was not addressed, but, you know, obviously the Riverwalk was, all that was there before the apartment, so, but it is something we can look into, you know, further, you know, maybe in the future if there's a where to move some of it, but you know, I know that was talked about, but I don't know that, you know, it's been there forever. So that was there before anything was built. And the development was planned there, you know, so that was going. So, all right, moving forward to consent agenda. Mrs. Melton?
Yes, staff requests to remove item I, which will be presented in the future.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion to approve, Mr. Roth, you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to remove item A.
Remove it or just take it off?
I'm sorry, pull it out to discussion.
So item A.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, is that a motion to approve?
And motion to approve the B through H, J through N.
Okay. Second. Second, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll start the vote in Ward 4.
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3. Yes, 3?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I figured it was yes. All right, Mr. Roth for A.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so the lease with the shuffleboard, I just wanted to clarify, because some of you might not be aware that the original lease on that, it's been there forever, but the original lease was with the Lawn Bowling Club, which became defunct. And then there was like no lease for a long period of time. And the city has then since made the decision that they would go ahead and kind of keep the building in a little better shape, work with the group. But the intent has been to not put another permanent lease in there, because that is city-owned property that is in the downtown core, and there, you know, always for future use, there may or may not be a desire to do something with that. You know, the lawn bowlers are actually great neighbors. They keep the property up. They're doing a better job than they used to. But I just want to pass this knowledge on that the original lease was the lawn bowling lease for all that many years. There was no lease, and then now there is a temporary lease that's renewed. So with that, I recommend we approve item A.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Sanders, I heard first. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 5.
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
and 4.
Yes.
Thank you, approved. Mrs. Melton?
We do not have any business advertising, petitions, hearings, and communications this morning. So the next item on the agenda is new business, and it's the permanent population estimate from the University of Florida.
Mayor, if I could address this just briefly. Mayor, Council, you may remember last year I gave an explanation of this. We received basically, as required, a population estimate from Bieber. Bieber does this for the state through the University of Florida. And really what it is an annual estimation of population growth. Of course, the census is typically done, national census, on a 10-year basis, but states like to see what's happening each and every year, so they estimate it, and these are the numbers that were provided in their estimate. This particular proposal that's before you has to go to each local government and give you all the opportunity to challenge the estimate. There would be benefits if you could have a higher population growth. You may be there may be more entitlements under certain federal grants, state grants, and the like, and that's why an entity may choose to look at that and say it's not accurate. Here, if you look at it, it's a fairly significant growth rate, particularly on an annualized basis. And if you calculated that out on a 10-year basis for growth, it's pretty phenomenal. People are moving to, obviously, to the city of Bradenton. Density is increasing in certain parts of the city and the like. So I think it's probably as good as estimate as any. I've worked with the Beavers both in my prior position as well as this position in speaking with the folks at the University of Florida as I did last year. And I think they do a pretty good job of trying to calculate that estimate.
Mr. Perry, if we did challenge it, what would a number, I mean, if you went up 500, it probably wouldn't make that big of a difference. You would challenge it if you were thinking there was thousands of difference.
That would be correct. In order to challenge it, we'd have to do our own, basically probably contract somebody that's a population geographist and come up with some sort of calculation. And I've really never seen that happen, quite frankly.
So is this something we need to say is just information, or we need to have?
It's just information. I bring it to your attention because I'm the signatory to it,
Right, okay.
and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't have a problem with just signing it and saying that the estimate looks good. I mean, total population change on an annualized basis is 1,225, and if you think about the base population from the last 2020 census, it was 55,698, and so, you know, we're growing basically on an annualized basis at about 6%. Do that on a 10-year calculation, and you got a pretty large growth rate.
All right, any questions? All right, hearing none, moving on. Recycling
We have
collection
recycling
discussion. And this was more of just an informational thing of what we've done so far with our changeover, because we did say we were going to keep evaluating this going forward. And so I asked Jim to kind of give a little bit information to us and moving forward. We actually are having people call us with the success that they hear we're having and how we're going to continue to grow whatever direction we end up going.
Yeah. Jim McClellan, Director of Public Works and Utilities. I've prepared a graph here that shows the actual tonnage that we have taken to recycle since last June, so June 2021 through July. The green bars represent the months in which we were not doing curbside recycle and represent the containers that we're using now. So you can see that for that prior year period, we averaged taking about 27.99 or 28 tons per month to the recycle facility. For June and July of this year, with the curbside curtailed and the blue cans being used, we're right around 24 tons. And it's going to continue to rise. We've received the additional 5 containers that we're hoping to put out and supplement at existing locations that are heavily used with larger doors, so that we can have that continue. And we anticipate that the tonnages will continue to rise, especially now that we've added glass back into the waste stream, which is heavier than virtually anything else that goes into the recycled containers.
And Jim, one of the reasons we added glass back in was because our recycler was able to get it back in.
Correct.
And I got a few questions from some people about that there was a glass recycler somewhere here in Manatee County or Sarasota County right on the border, but we don't separate, so we couldn't collect it, separate it, and then take it to a different place because of our methods.
Correct.
Is that correct? So we were glad, and I did talk with the hauler quite a bit about a week ago, or the recycler, and he did say that the commodity market now is in the tank again, and, you know, he's worried about that, the way
It goes up and down.
Right.
And just for reference purposes, you'll see that there were a couple of months earlier in this year where it's very low in the amount of recycle. That is a period of time when we're telling our guys, if the blue can is full of trash, don't bother recycling it, because it's just going to end up costing us twice as much.
Right. And I think this chart shows The blue would be when we're not 100% sure of where, but 50% plus or minus was being taken to the landfill anyway.
Correct.
Because of the percentage that was contaminated. The green, we're guesstimating 90+%, because when you and I and Rob drove around, when others have seen it, you go there and people are bringing it very clean to the drop-off.
Yes.
Ms. Coker, did you have a question? I didn't know if you had raised your hand. I didn't see.
Well, I actually do, but I didn't raise my hand yet.
All right.
I was just curious, I mean, that's a huge, some of those, when we're up over 60 tons, do we know what accounted for the big drop-off all of a sudden? Was it that people were just not recycling clean, or?
No, you're seeing the progression of us basically telling our guys, you're wasting your time taking that material that is mostly contaminated to the facility,
Oh, okay,
okay?
okay.
So when you look, if you see the July 21, August 21, if 50, 60, 70% of that was contaminated, it brings it down to almost of what we did clean in this June and July. So, Mr. Roth?
Yeah, thank you. So to be clear, what my motive on this was, as I saw a study, it was Florida Trend is where I first saw that this was something that's happened over in DeLand, I think it was, anyway. And what I thought about was that in the attempt to try to do right by the planet, this might seem contrary, but it's really not, because what I saw was we're sending a whole fleet of trucks out. We're sending the garbage trucks out, and then we're sending the recycle trucks out, and then basically doing the whole city an entire loop, and then half of the recycle truck is going to the landfill, meaning all that carbon, all that manpower, wear and tear on truck was all for nothing. We actually put more carbon in the air trying to do the right thing and failing than we are now by doing it more efficiently. Also, we had a manpower shortage where we were just not, we threw money at the problem, we did everything we could, we tried to poach other employees from other companies. Basically, we were losing our yard waste pickup, which this city has always loved and appreciated. So the other attempt of this was to quit putting carbon in the air uselessly, and then, but also saving the yard waste pickup, which was in peril. Which it appears that we've gone through the heat of the summer and we're up to snuff with yard waste. Is that true?
We've had a few hiccups where people, I mean, we had one instance where virtually the entire crew ended up suffering from minor heat exhaustion, and were not available the next day, and that puts us behind for a day, and we have to try to catch up. But for the most part, so for instance, this week we're on schedule for the normal pickups, and occasionally, you know, there's the odd COVID situation that'll pop up or whatever else. But yes, I think for the most part, basically within our budget proposal for the coming year, our recycle budget is approximately half of what it was the prior year, based upon the redistribution of the personnel into the other divisions of solid waste.
Well, and when I say yard waste, last summer, we had big piles that were browning out and becoming fire hazards.
Well, we were trying to do everything with too few people, and it was making everything worse.
And that's why we did this.
Correct.
But, Mr. Roth, I think all of us would agree up here that it's very important to continue to recycle.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
And-
saying
and
that.
if we're
It's-
doing the same, but if we can still continue over the next several months to improve, or, you know, I mean, I know the county is working with their contracts and trying to figure out ways that if we can do a county-wide with some sort of interlocal agreement with Palmetto and the city of Bradenton to maybe bring back curbside at some point, you know, and obviously, that's something that we said all along, that we will continue to try to grow it. One of the things that I think that we all are happy with, proud of, whatever, is we know that if you're gonna drive it there, you're gonna make sure it's done right.
Absolutely.
So maybe, just maybe, that will turn into, if we ever are able to go back to curbside, that people will be more conscious about making it right. Because I did hear down to the south have been very, very active with the Venice people and talking with them and going through things and getting their information, that they actually open the can if it's any contaminated. They close it and put a red tag on it, and then you have one chance, so they don't take it. So that's how some of their things have been able to work, which creates a time issue too, because now you're determining, close it, So some of those things. Any other questions, Mr. Sanders? Yes, sir.
Last week, I was at the Florida League of Cities, and I talked to an executive with Waste Management, and he had a little different perspective on this. He says his tonnage was, I don't know, I caught him at the convention, so he probably didn't have details there, but he said that the tonnage was dramatically down for the city of Bradenton, and he just said, here's the simple way to look at this. Where do you think the rest of the trash is going? And he said, to the landfill. So he has a different take on it that
course he is.
we're
He's a
hurting.
businessman.
I understand he has a motive called money.
Yeah.
And that always drives everything. I get it. But he also said all the surrounding cities and counties are still recycling, and he has.
And we are too.
Recycling at the curb.
Well, again, the numbers, these are actual numbers. These are from our bills from Waste Pro to tell us the tonnage. Is it way down from the highest when it was 50 and 60? Yeah, but how much of it was recyclable? I don't.
I don't know that we know that.
Oh, no, we don't. But we certainly know based upon what we've seen in the field.
I know, and I'm not being critical.
you-
I'm just saying that Grandma is still unhappy that her recycling is not getting done at the curb like we've done her entire life, and she's calling me.
Well,
And
I would say.
I have a hard time explaining this to Grandma.
But I will tell you, I've been at some of the blue containers moving material around, and whenever anybody comes up, I offer to assist them to put the material in, and 9 times out of 10, the people are like, no need, I've got this down to a system, and they're happy to do it that way. We can't make everybody happy, I understand that.
Do you see us going back to curbside recycling?
I would love us to, because what we are doing is we are trying to have conversations, we have been having conversations with Manatee County that would allow us to have an interlocal agreement with them for their haulers to provide that service to us. And we're waiting for information because they're in the midst of renegotiating their contracts right now.
So we would sub out the recycling to them?
Correct. And realistically, we wouldn't be able to have those conversations if we hadn't done what we've already done to set us up. Because back 3 years ago, Waste Pro gave us a cost. They said,
They did.
if you want us to do curbside recycle collection for you, it's going to be $4.98 a month per household.
Per household, yeah.
Okay? We currently have 1,664 accounts.
16,000.
16,000.
16,000. So the 498 would work out to just about $1 million, is just 994,000, whatever, okay? Our budget for recycle was around 850,000, so there was an additional cost. But it's not quite apples to apples because there's the sunk cost associated with it. So we had calculated that it would add about $200,000 to $300,000 in cost, which, whether we ate it or not, but we weren't in a position to be able to accept their response or their offer because we would have to advertise it and put it out on the street. And if we put out on the street that we were privatizing a component of our solid waste collection, we would have had mass exodus of people from our division who are, I'm in the recycle division, you're getting rid of recycle. We were worried about them leaving at that. Given the way we're set up now, that's not a concern anymore. And we would have had union issues as well back associated with trying to do those things. So we're in a better position to be able to have those negotiations and discussions with Manatee County to be able to potentially go to that level. And we're very hopeful that it happens.
But recycling now has turned around, according to the executives or city managers I've talked to at Venice, and that they did have to have a little surcharge couple of years ago, and it actually, so this year they saying it's zero, and they're actually making a profit.
I don't think that's 100%
I just-
correct.
I just
Let me
received the
just
letter. I don't
explain,
know.
because we've had conversations with the operational staff at Venice. Currently, Venice has two separate charges on solid waste. They have municipal garbage collection, and they have recycle as a separate line item. Each resident right now is paying, I believe, $10.71 a month for recycle alone. The surcharge that they were charging was on top of that $10.71 in order to make up the loss in their revenue. The other aspect is the facility that they take their recycle to, they charge them $100 a ton. And then if it's clean and they sell the material, they write them back a rebate check of somewhere between $10 to $12 per ton per month. So they're paying somewhere between $88 and $90 total. We pay $75. And we've talked to them and they're like, we know what you pay. We'd love to have what you pay. So it's not quite zero. The surcharge is zero, but they're paying $10.71 a month each resident.
On top of their $10 and something for their garbage.
Correct.
On top of the $10 they're paying for their yard waste. On top of the $100
Yeah, they also
that they
charge-
buy their can for. They have to buy their can. So, I mean, it's information and drilled down a lot. Brian Cho did a great job at talking with their people. And I did talk with we take our recycling to Waste Pro, correct?
Correct.
So Waste Pro, I talked with their owner, the main guy there, about 2 weekends ago, and he told me that, yes, our tonnage was down to them, but when you look at what's clean recycled, it's almost identical. And he has a hard time separating, just like we do, because we dump the truck, everybody comes in there, dumps their trucks, they go through it, and then they take a portion. And he's a private business, so he's not going to give us what he's taken to the landfill totally.
And that's the other difference in Venice's case. The facility that they take theirs to, every person who takes, or every entity that takes recycled materials to their facility has a designated dump site.
Right.
And they look at it and say,
I
if it's
understand,
ungood.
but the totality of it is this: the people are happy. We're recycling to save our environment, and there's always going to be a cost. Are we willing to absorb the cost?
And that's what if we get a number from Manatee County, we will look at it from the standpoint of how much can we absorb within what
We're
we're
the only
already
ones
budgeting,
not
and
doing
is there
it.
an increase?
We're the
I don't
only ones not
anticipate
doing it.
it's going to be a huge number.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones not doing it in the state of Florida. We may be in this area some, but what the goal is, if we put $10 on right now, which is basically what Venice charges, and then said, okay, if you want a can, you got to pay $100 to cover the cost of the can, would that not be a detriment to our citizens right now? So the goal is, and again, I've talked with the Mayor of Palmetto, I've been working with the administrator and the chairman at the county to get a contract that not only does two things with getting curbside recycling back, and the other, it gets that now we don't have one City of Bradenton truck on 17th Avenue driving down it, picking up the right side, and a Waste Pro truck right behind it, picking up on the left side, because where our lines are. They will be able to drive our entire county, save cost, and get the recycling. That was the goal all along, but as you said, we had to start the process somewhere, and I think we're going, and that's why I asked for this to be on the agenda today, so we can continue that going down, as well as getting that contract from Manatee County, because we never charged any when we started recycling. It was about, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
No, we've been recycling.
Well, I'm
since
talking
the
about
90s.
with the
But when we went to single stream.
Single stream, yeah.
Yeah, that's been about 5 years.
Yeah,
and
about
we've-
5 years
we
with
did
single
not.
stream, which I was a very proponent of single stream, so.
That's not quite true, is it? Because you absorb the salaries in all the other entities, the water and so forth. I mean, those people are all absorbed. Their salaries and equipment is all absorbed in the other sides of the
Correct,
equation.
but what we were saying is we
So
never.
to say it's recycling should be separated out, you could take out recycling, garbage, yard waste, and all the rest and divide it out. But then something is going to change because it's the same people and the same trucks that you are paying for in those other services.
That's correct, but I think what the mayor was mentioning is the fact that we have never had a separate charge.
Absolutely, but if you did, then you would know the true cost of what recycling was from an expense standpoint if you tied it back to the
We've
cost of
always
equipment.
known, we've always known what the cost is because we track recycling as a separate division within solid
You've kept-
waste.
And what does that cost per household?
I haven't divided up, well, let me see. It
Said
would
it was
work
about
out.
840,000 for the total. And Mrs. Coachman will get to you. I saw that you had it.
Well,
Like
and,
the-
but Ms.
Thought-
Coachman was
thought-
before me.
But I think Ms. Coker was before me.
Actually, mine's
Give me
been
just a
answered
second,
now.
I'll run a quick calc. Whoops, sorry, hang on. $4.26 a month.
But if that's the case, that's very minimal to some, I think we should have probably offered that before we went this far with this. That's just my personal opinion, so.
That's fine.
You know, I'd pay $4 more to save our planet and $4 more to keep it right at the curb level and $4 more to keep these phone calls from waking me up at night.
Understood.
So, Ms. Coachman, I think you had up first is what I saw, so. yeah.
Before I even say what I was gonna say, $4 more may be a lot to someone on a fixed income, and those are the
Absolutely.
people that I'm getting calls from. But I was always kind of the thought of, showing some tough love, open the can, it's not right, tag it. But of course, going this route is also giving us data, and it's kind of giving us an idea of how many people will recycle, come or high water. But there are still those people who can't drive their recycle, but they really want to. And then there are even some that, well, I can drag it down to the curb, but I can't go any further than that. So, and when I've noticed personally, because I'm not recycling, I just the recycle box is so far away, but I have a lot of cardboard in my car right now because I'm going to drive to it. I had to ask for a second can. Now I was reminded once I got the second can, it's the really large ones now, because I had the smaller one, and
You're talking the green can?
yeah, the green cans. Sorry, because I'm not. Some stuff is not going to recycle, it's going in the trash. And it's an extra cost, $17 and something a month to have a second can. So, wow, if you're not recycling, either your cans are gonna be full and all on the ground, or you're gonna inquire that cost. So I'm interested, I'm glad we're still having the conversation, because
Absolutely.
I have a feeling we're going to work it, and we're going to make it.
I mean, the conversations as early as last week that the mayor and I were with Mr. Hopes, and the conversations are on a positive note, so I think they're working, I think we have an avenue to get there.
And I've tried to assure everyone that, I'm sorry, I've tried to assure everyone that I've talked to that, hey, this is a process. We're in transition, we're going to get it right. So, thanks.
All right, Mrs. Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a difficult decision for us all, because we, particularly those of us that were raised in the 70s, recycling was supposed to be the panacea that was going to fix everything, and we weren't going to have to worry about PCBs and all of the other stuff that was going on. And it was frustrating for me to find out that we were spending money and wear and tear on our equipment and wear and tear on our people doing recycling, and it wasn't being recycled. We had this fallacy that everything that went into that blue bin was magically taken care of, and it wasn't, because the stream was not clean. We never charged people for recycling, because back when we started doing it, way back, we were actually making a little bit of money on recycling, and that was going to help keep the department going, as well as probably keep the rates that you were paying for water, sewage, and garbage pickup a little lower, because it was something that we could take that money that we were making and put it back into the system. We had a real problem last year with yard waste. And there are many communities, many neighborhoods in Bradenton that are old historic neighborhoods that are not master planned. They don't have HOAs. They don't have common area grounds where an HOA pays a private entity to come in and clean it up. We have a lot of individual homeowners that do their own yard work. And it was becoming a real mess. I mean, there are some of us sitting up here that went out on Saturdays, starting at 5:30 in the morning, to pick up yard waste, to try to help get the system working better, trying to play catch-up. So to be able to save yard waste, I thought something had to give. But I'm very happy to hear that the recycling program looks to me like it's grown a little bit, because we now have really truly clean recycling that we are able to take to the business that handles that for us.
Correct.
And, you know, we've been talking about this now for months, but we're still doing it. The county of Jacksonville, the city of Jacksonville stopped recycling, period. That's a huge city in the state of Florida that isn't recycling at all. So for everyone that is trying to do the right thing and keeping up with their recycling and taking it to the bins, and Mr. McClellan, I know that we've actually added a Saturday pickup at certain locations, because we were doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A lot of people do their recycling errands on Saturday and Sunday, and the bins were getting full and overflowing.
Right.
So we are now trying to pick up on Saturday as well, when we have the staff that's able to do that.
Correct. We do a Saturday afternoon pickup to help empty the cans that have been filled since the Friday collection.
Right. So that's a positive sign. Ms. Coker?
Well, I just wanted to ask, and now it's been answered, and I'm really glad to hear that you're still trying to look for ways to get back to
Absolutely.
a curbside pickup.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, my ward especially is a lot of senior citizens, and, you know, putting that into a car, I mean, it's not, you know, that easy. So, but I think the education that we have gotten through this, I know I'm a way better recycler now. I am recycling.
And we're still having that, we're still doing on-site education.
That's why I raised my card, was to see if we were, and I'm glad to hear we are.
Absolutely. And I just had the conversation yesterday with Mr. Cho, where he was at a can, and somebody came up and was emptying their stuff out of, taking it out of a garbage bag to put in, and they threw a pizza box in, and he's like, that's illegal, you can't do that. I've been recycling pizza boxes since the beginning of time. Open it up, show the grease, say, this is why it can't be recycled. Well, I didn't know that. So there's still education to be done.
Well, and I think that really, if you look at those numbers that you showed us with the tonnage that we're taking now, and again, we're thinking it's 90+% clean, we are recycling as much.
Right.
You know, and again, there's some, that you can play with the numbers, and one of the things that I've told the counties and the news media that's called me is, we're 2 months in. So I don't take that as, you know, are people gonna slow down because they get tired of doing it, or are they more people gonna start to get educated and pick up? So far, we've seen it kind of trending up. But if the biggest part for me in thinking of all of this, if we figure out how to go back to curbside recycling is, it's gonna be cleaner.
Yeah, if nothing else, going through this process has educated
Right,
folks.
yeah. And again, we said all along from day one, we're gonna continue to look at this. I mean, do you think most people would have brought it back in 2 months to discuss it and go through it? No. They would have waited months and months and months to let it go away.
Well, again, our overall goal, despite the inherent contradiction it seems, is that we were hoping to grow recycle
Oh,
through
yeah.
this process. and I think we will eventually as part of this.
So, Mr. Sanders and Ms.
I
Coachman.
don't have any.
Okay, Ms. Coachman.
I just have to come to my defense. I was an excellent recycler. I would try to get my neighbors to do the same, but that didn't work. And I have to say, when we had the green boxed bins, I was a really good recycler too, because I separated like I was supposed to. Others did not.
All right, Ms. Barnaby. and then
Mr.
we'll-
Mayor, while we have Mr. McClellan up there, do we want to, the addition to our agenda dealing with the debris monitoring contractor
I think we,
contract extension?
I think
Was this on the,
I think we did it.
It was in consent.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I had it separated out because it came in separate, so I
Great
apologize.
discussion, thank you, and thank Mr. Cho and all the staff
And we will
there.
continue to
that we're gonna
monitor and
continue, and
improve.
I expect to hear soon from Dr. Hopes with their negotiations, and very interesting conversation with the Waste Pro, Mr. Was it Van?
Ten Hoff,
Van Hoff, yeah.
Ten Hoff.
Ten Hoff, yeah. Very good conversation with him the other night, so, thank you, Jim. Mr. Perry?
Now, the other matter under new business is the final investigative report.
Yeah, Mr. Perry, point of order. Florida State Statute 104.31, political activities of state, county, and municipal officers and employees. No officer or employee of the state or any county or municipality shall use his or her official authority or influence for the purpose of interfering with an election. Now, there are some people that question the timing of this coming up right now. So I have a simple solution to keep this body in accordance with the Florida State statute. To protect the integrity and credibility of this elected body, I move to table this discussion until after the election.
I'm bringing to the attention of council, I have no position on it. It was bought
Right.
as an independent review for the examination of the peers and the public, and it's entirely within your province to decide as a council on how to proceed.
Okay, it's an agenda item. I just motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second, I don't see any reason why we should do this now. I didn't think we were gonna vote. I thought it was gonna.
There's no vote asking for now, it's just, but we'll do some, yeah.
But if it's tabled, there can be no discussion.
What are we discussing here? I mean,
So,
Well, you have a report.
motion and is,
a second.
all right, so start the vote in Ward 1,
No,
2,
No.
3,
Yes.
4.
Point of clarification, our attorney advised me to call the ethics office to see if I could even vote on this. I don't know what your intent was, but I did, and I can vote. So if you disagree with them, you should file a complaint.
My only intent was to make sure that you got the advice that you needed from the Ethics Commission. It's a personal decision whether or not
I
you
understand, but
vote
I
on the
took it
matter.
as a threat. So I'm voting yes, I voted for the motion.
And to be clear, the motion said to protect the integrity and credibility of the elected body, not an individual, the body.
That's the part
Ward 5.
point of clarification. What constitutes a shade meeting?
Litigation.
Let's let the attorney answer that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, in order to call a shade meeting, we would have to be in active litigation. So
Nice.
this discussion could not occur in a shade meeting.
Okay. Understood. I have concerns about this happening now. I understand the situation, but from listening to that statute, I'm concerned.
There's no discussion on a tabling motion.
just got a
Okay.
yes or no.
See,
All right.
Point of order, we're out of line.
Yes or no?
Just yes or no?
I'll
It
take
was
care
your
of that, Mr.
second
Sam.
motion, so I assume it'd be a yes.
Yes.
Well, okay, so, all right, motion carries 3-2. Carried. All right, Mr., one of my concerns and as the chief executive officer is obviously protection of employees. And I had an employee tell me the other day they're afraid to come to work. So that's my biggest concern. And other stuff will come up, and we're fine with that, because it's not political. Everything isn't always political. So, Mr. Perry, moving forward, is there any other unfinished business we need to discuss? Or new business?
I don't believe so.
We do need to discuss, I've asked that we do an independent investigation and bring up to this council to go forward. Mr. Rudisell, did you want to say anything to that, or how we bring that up?
Mr. Mayor, we do have an engagement letter that's been provided by retired federal Judge Holder, who has agreed to assist the city in that investigation. So I don't know if we have that here, but if we could distribute it, I think it would be appropriate to have the council authorize that engagement.
Mr. Roth?
Yeah, I saw the notice, so my question is, are these two, so a judge and a officer from
Northport.
from Northport, so are they going to be for hire? Are they doing it pro bono? Is this engagement letter, what's that mean? Is it contract?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. I mean, at least with respect to
The judge.
the judge, it would be contractual. I'm not sure at this
No
point.
charge for the captain.
Okay, so the captain will be assisting Judge Holder in the investigation for the portions of the investigation that must be conducted by a law enforcement officer.
Okay, so, because what I saw was FDLE had initially said that they wouldn't do this because it had been anonymous, but there have since been affidavits that have been signed, which could change FDLE's perspective on that. I guess I'd prefer to have FDLE, it just is a more cleansing sound than, I mean, see if they would be willing to pick it back up now that there are affidavits.
Yeah, and my thought was, let's go outside of the box, because there's a lot of FDLE questions at times from people. So let's try to get an independent person, independent people out there to do that. And, that's why I reached out to them. So, I mean, there's, again, if we want to ask FDLE, but some of the FDLE stuff, we may get the same answer that we got before, because
Not to get all the information.
All right,
that's just how I feel. But, again, yes, sir, Mr.
Okay.
Sanders.
FDLE did not get all the information last time. You only gave them, Mr. Mayor, one letter out. You did not give them, this letter came from FDLE. They did not get that. And that was provided to me so they were, let me finish and then
I
you can.
haven't said a word. I'm
Okay,
getting ready to.
you're staring there, but they did not get the information to make a true assessment. Now we have sworn affidavits. Those are a little more, I wish we'd got some sworn affidavits and some of our other things that we've tried to accomplish here today, which has not been,
Come on, please.
okay, well, it is an item.
So he can discuss it, we can't.
It is an item. And I've talked to the Department of Justice, and the proper way to do this is to have them do this, as they did in Albuquerque, right? And
Negative. I'll strike that, assuming facts not into evidence.
we're not in a courtroom here.
I thought we were.
Oh, did we? Oh, okay, we could do
Let's
that. We
get
could,
to the point.
we can do that, but there, because local politics proves not to do this correctly. because now you have a neighboring chief of police that's friends with our chief of police. And this is suspect as to why you wouldn't let a government agency that oversees police departments, like the FBI or FDLE or both, and they have to be asked. They won't voluntarily come in. You have to ask them, and then they will, but you got to give them full information. You can't give them just part of the story. It's like anything else. There's two sides of the story, but there's also facts. We haven't presented facts to FDLE or FBI, and I understand they would be glad, I've been told, they would be glad to look at this and keep this out of the purview of local people of neighboring cities. I just think that's, I would not vote for that.
Okay, Mr. Sanders, who did you talk to, and when did you talk to them, that you have been told? Who was the person you talked to?
At the Department of Justice.
The Department of Justice.
I don't know the name.
Well,
I was given the Department of Justice phone number by the Florida League of Cities, and I spoke to them, and they said that they would
Okay,
entertain
who did you
it.
talk to there?
I don't know who it was. I don't know the name. I didn't get the name. What's that make a difference?
well, I want to call them and find out that.
Well, you can call them. I got the number. You can call them.
And when did you do this?
I did this a couple months ago.
Well, but that was before anything was even out there.
That was regarding some other things, but I've talked to them since, so.
Okay,
Wait a minute, I'm not on trial here.
No, but you're trying to put facts in evidence, then
Yeah.
you don't have any evidence, so
I-
tell me.
I'm
who
not
you talked
putting
to
facts
and
in evidence. I'm just saying that that's the agency that does these things.
But then who did you talk to? If you
I
say-
don't know the name,
Well-
and even if I did know the name, I probably shouldn't reveal it anyway,
Why?
because
Because if
you're
they
gonna
say-
retaliate against them.
No, I'm not. I'm going to call and ask them a question.
Okay.
That what you say is.
Well, you know what? You know the number, you call them.
And again,
You can call them.
an opinion survey is not something FDLE would take, even though FDLE did have it. They had it already. It was sent
No,
to
they
them.
didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they
They
didn't.
had it. So,
they didn't.
Mrs. Coker.
Well, towards that, putting facts out there, that, are they facts? This is the first I'm hearing that this is her good friend that's the captain. I mean, do you have any kind of proof or to support that, or you're just making that assumption and throwing it out there? Because I'm very concerned about the public trust, and
Well, so am I.
Excuse me, I have the floor. I'm glad that you are initiating this independent study because I am concerned about our public trust. And I think we need to have facts out there. And I have, at this point, I have very much want to support our chief. And I think that a lot of things are being said out in the public that are unsubstantiated or gossip and there could be ulterior motives to do it. And so I want to make sure that we get an independent and not just her buddy, like you said, and a judge. I don't think these people are going to put their careers on the line for something like that. So I'm glad that you're going forward with this, and I would like to, if you need a motion to support it, I don't know what you need, but I really am concerned about the public trust right now.
I am too.
And
Why can't-
undermining our law enforcement.
So is a motion? Ms.
I will make what do they need? A
Can we
motion?
release the body cameras?
I will make a motion.
Authorize the engagement of Judge Holder and Captain Gregory.
I will make a motion to authorize Judge Holder and Captain Gregory to do the independent investigation.
Is there a second?
Can I make a friendly
Is there a
amendment?
second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Roth?
I would be fine with that if we were to just approach FDLE first and see if the new facts have changed anything. And if it hasn't, then we move forward on this. But I would just feel more confident. The FDLE's whole purpose is to investigate law enforcement. So if we were to just if they were to go first, I'm not disparaging anything about anybody else. I'm just saying that would be my preferred agency. That's the state agency that's supposed to be doing this. We sent it to them incomplete. They didn't want to touch it. I understand that. But now we have affidavits that may change that. They may say, well, you know what, we're going to stick with it, in which case I'd be fine with moving forward. But I would just like to approach them first and see if they're still interested, or
Well-
if the facts have changed.
But my concern is time. I think the longer this gets drawn out, we've gone to FDLE,
Well,
they
but-
declined to do it. Okay, well, the investigation is going forward. But I would like to see our independent investigation get started as soon as possible.
But the chief has not been suspended. There's nothing has changed. Everything's still moving the way it is right now. It's still a fluid situation.
I have made my motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, can I say something?
Is the council, so hearing nothing further from the council, we'll
So there's
start the
no,
vote. And
there's
Mr.
no
Sanders?
amendment? Yeah, there was
No,
amendment.
They didn't accept
You
the
didn't
motion.
accept the amendment?
No.
I just wanted on record that you didn't accept the amendment.
No,
Sir,
Okay.
there's
my
no
motion is
discussion.
my
I
motion.
got it. I just wanted,
Can I say anything?
No,
Sure,
sir.
I don't know.
No, sir.
As far as I'm concerned,
You're
you
out of
can.
order. Thank you.
why not?
We're going to start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
As I said, I would,
Ward 3,
Yes or no?
fine, yeah.
yes, Ward 4,
No.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Passes 4-1.
Can I make a motion now?
Mr. Perry,
Can I make a
let me,
motion?
just a second, Mr. Sanders, we'll get to your comments. Mr. Perry, any other business? Unfinished business?
Mayor, just briefly, as it relates to the responses and proposals for the considered disposition of City Hall, as council knows, that was on a national advertisement. Responses came in last Wednesday, and the purchasing office opened the responses, has custody of the responses, and put out a list of the 5 responses, including the names of the proposers. There were 5 of them. I would suggest a workshop. We are going to need, as an administration, some direction from council on how to proceed to get you those proposals and what to do regarding providing information. They're very detailed, quite frankly, and you certainly can review each and every one in as much detail as you want, but there's primary information contained in there about the bid amounts, the terms of the proposals, and the proposed use. Those are the 3 key factors. At each one of those factors, as you start peeling back the onion, give you an example, the terms of the transaction. Well, someone could have offered it, and this is just a hypothetical number, $15 million, something like that. But is that $15 million up front, and then they get control of the site, and there's a hard, fast date on when we would have to be out of the site locations with our police department and our administrative functions? Or does that have a timeline associated? Things like that. Ultimately, you're all going to have to give us some direction in that regard, and I think it would be very beneficial to have a workshop so that we can talk about what you would like as it relates to those issues. And I'm just asking for a workshop. I don't need a protracted debate
Mr. Sanders?
substantively right now.
Mr. Perry, have you seen those bids?
No, sir.
How did you arrive at 15 million?
Let me
That was just an
let me
estimate?
repeat what I just said for those that may not have heard.
I didn't.
I said 15 million as a hypothetical number.
Oh.
Court reporter, could you read back what I said so that we can make sure that, yeah.
Sure, that's okay.
Read it back, please, thank you.
All right, so we will set up a workshop.
Okay,
in-
when will we see, fine, you can have it your way. Fine. When will the council see the actual bids? In the state statute that I gave to our council, it says that we are entitled, the public is entitled to see those within 10 days of the opening of those bids. I sent that to you, it's as part of the state statute, and I asked you to give an opinion. I haven't got one, but I had other people look at it, and 10 days is the standard. We don't even have to wait 10 days, but that's what the statute calls for. Can I see that? That's been on the 5th, it was actually 15th, 17th, it was open. So it'd be in the next few days that I would be able, as a councilman, to see those bids. Can I see those bids?
Mayor, as a point of order, if we could take it one at a time, and I could get the court reporter to answer the first question. We'll take them one at a time, and we can move in an orderly manner. Ma'am, could you read back or play back that section of it by chance?
No.
No, okay.
You know,
In that regard, I think it was basically pretty clear that I said 15 million was a hypothetical number. I also answered the question that I had not seen the bids. As it relates to the second matter, we are reviewing it with conflict counsel right now. It is not with Mr. Rudisal's firm as the city attorney, and we've been provided a number of different statutes that provide us a great deal more time to vet that before it becomes public. As far as when that becomes, those that become available, you tell me, and that's the purpose of the workshop.
I want to see it now.
That's one vote, and so.
Well, I didn't know we was gonna, can we vote on it? Well, let's vote on it.
If you'd like me to get the statute and explain why the statute is written the way it is.
I didn't write the statute, Florida State Legislature did.
Mayor, may I proceed without being interrupted?
Yes, sir, please.
If you'd like me to get the statute, bring conflict counsel down, perhaps who is qualified, who's practiced law, who went to law school, who passed the bar, who does municipal representation, that kind of legal advice. If you'd like me to bring them down, we can have to explain to counsel what their legal rights are as it relates to confidentiality. Specifically on bid procurements, because they may contain proprietary information, because you wouldn't want one proposer taking the ideas of another to some sort of strategic or tactical advantage. The Florida legislature has allowed a certain degree of confidentiality within these bids. Now, that can be waived by counsel if that's their preference. However, that's something that I'd like to have probably some further legal advice, and a thing called deliberative process and democracy of 3 votes out of 5 to give me direction on what to do.
I believe in that last part very much so.
Mr.
Why do
Sanders,
we have a conflict attorney?
Mr. Sanders, I'm going to move on to Ms. Coker. She has a comment.
Yeah, I just, and I thought we talked about this yesterday, but maybe I didn't. I don't think it's in the best interest of our community to put all those bids public when we may choose to negotiate with one of them. And if you let them know what all the other bids are, you're undercutting your negotiating power. I think, I mean, I'm used to dealing with multiple offers, and it's price and terms, and there's a lot of things you got to consider. And I think that to just make it all public now is just not the deliberative way to go.
Well, I believe it's
Mr. Roth,
transparent.
Yeah,
Mr. Sanders, please. Mr.
So,
Roth.
we did go through this once before. We sold the reservoir property. There were people protesting. It was much bugaboo. It was a big deal. We had a process. We came in, we had all the bids, we discussed it. I like the idea of a workshop. I like the idea of moving this forward. I'd said this before, that I didn't bring this forward, but since you did, since this was brought forward, I believe that we've outgrown City Hall. That's my observation in time period that I'm here. It's that we've now cubicled off our section as much as possible. PD has creeped all the way from PD into the auditorium. So if we're gonna do this, let's do it. I'd like to have a workshop. I'd like to have a discussion. I'd like to have it as soon as possible.
Yep, that's the plan.
And I would recommend sooner rather than later.
No, that's definite, so. All right, so any further discussion? Oh, Ms. Barnaby, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we undertook this idea of being able to look at the needs for the city with both regards to police and to administration of the city, it's a very exciting idea. For those of us that were here when this building got put here almost in spite, to now realize that we have the opportunity and we might be able to do something wonderful that can help every taxpayer. So I'm very interested in having this workshop as soon as possible. I also want to make sure that as part of the process, the deliberative process that we have, that we go out into the community and have public meetings in which all of the information about what could happen on this property and how that might impact individual taxpayers. I think that's very important information to have out there. I also think it's important when we're looking at where we might put a police station, where we might put a city hall. We have areas in our urban core that need redevelopment. And it's pretty standard practice that private money will follow public money. And if we step out in faith and go into an area of our town that needs redevelopment, that can happen. And it can be a game changer for some areas that we have tried and tried and tried to do things for years. 14th Street being one of them. You know, Ward 5 the people in Ward 5 are asking for redevelopment.
Absolutely.
So I see this as an opportunity, and I would like to have the workshop. I will support having a workshop as soon as possible, but I also want to make sure there is public meeting components in our deliberative actions.
Mr. Perry?
Mayor, Councilor Barnaby, I've had discussions with you. You shared that with me a couple of days ago, and I've shared some of your thoughts with staff, and we're putting together a list now. Katarina came up representing the CRAs basically yesterday and gave me a list of probably, I don't know, 10 different entities that I could contact for public outreach. And I think what we're going to try to do is put together a presentation on both the proposal itself as it relates to the possibility of selling the City Hall site, and also the economic impact and the benefits to the community in totality. Because as we know from Dr. Deo, when those numbers came in as far as the fiscal impact of a project like this, you've got GDP growth in the hundreds of millions of dollars. You have jobs. You have a whole host of other economic benefits that could be spread out to the community, as far west as the islands, as far east as the territorial boundaries, and into Ward 5 other communities that really aren't within the urban core where this project would be built, but would receive immeasurable tax benefits. I think it was $20 million between the school board, the county, and the city in annualized tax benefits. But that also relates to use, because as Dr. Deo's tool had shown, on a mixed use, which maximizes the taxes and the GDP, is one proposal. If you go to strict multifamily, which are apartments, it drops by about 2/3. And so that's a policy decision that you'll all have to make with the community's input, which is important. But I do plan on putting together a community outreach plan to accomplish just what you suggested.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Sanders?
That was the consultant we hired for 20,000 that's come in here that told us all that based on unsubstantiated building proposal.
Sure, let
I'm
me
not
answer
done.
that question. That was the consultant.
I didn't ask you a question.
No, you did ask a question. You asked, is that the consultant?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the consultant that's worked for the Florida legislature that evaluates statewide projects. They have a PhD in economics.
I got it.
Done it probably hundreds of times.
Right.
Ecometric modeling
Mm-hmm.
and the like. They get all types of different data points and the like.
I don't disagree
and
with
so
you.
based on unsubstantiated evidence, which is another statement that came from Ward 4's council representation, I would say that it was fairly substantiated.
Great, thank you for the.
No, I'm not done explaining. Thank you, I have the floor, thank you. And I believe basically that information was probably one of the best groups we could get to do an economic impact evaluation, in my opinion. I don't have the expertise that the counselor has.
Well, I'll just use his words. He said it cost $52 million to replace this building. And the difference between 15 million, yes, it's on record, $52 million to replace this building, and you said hypothetically 15, that leaves a net loss to the taxpayers of about $37 million. And you've already said in yesterday's meeting, we're going to take out $20 million of reserves, we're going to borrow $20 million on a bond, and I don't believe that's what we should be burdening the taxpayer with, or possibly the next mayor.
Sure, and let me just kind of clarify that for lack of foundation, and also, again, assuming facts not to evidence. Basically, they never gave any proposal on what it would cost to rebuild a city hall and replace this building. I don't know where that came from.
They admitted
That's
it.
so far out of the wheelhouse of what the scope of their project was, that it's almost, exaggeration is an understatement. It's an understatement. But sure, we'll live on Fantasy Island for a minute. And where we come back to is what they did was an evaluation of economic impact. Is there another side to what you're going to have to do to build the city hall? And have I provided estimates? I have. And my estimates, I think, are fairly fairly well-rooted in similar projects, comparables, construction cost, all of the factors you use in trying to estimate a cost. So I'll stand by that, and I've done it before.
You built city halls?
I've built a lot,
Really?
$1.4 billion in infrastructure in my last job over an 8-year period.
I've had $5 billion, so what?
Really?
Isn't that
It
the
doesn't have
purpose of a
anything to do
workshop?
with this.
It's off topic here. We're gonna.
Yeah, it's off
Mr.
topic.
Perry, is there anything else from unfinished business? Unfinished business, Mr. Perry?
No, sir.
All right, we're gonna move to council reports.
Mayor,
Yes,
may
ma'am. Sure.
I'm under some consideration, sitting here and listening to the passionate conversation about everything. I feel I'm slighting the situation about the report that Mr. Perry was going to bring forward. I would like to have discussion, and evidently because it's been tabled, we can't. And I mean, we're passionately having good discussions, and I feel like this is something that should be discussed. And I understand we can't do a shade meeting. Is this something, it's talking about council having power or able to make some kind of disciplinary action against another member.
well,
Is that a workshop?
Is that,
we could
Mr., can she
I mean, he
untable
wa-
it since she was on the
I-
prevailing side?
Pull it?
Mr. Mayor, we'd need to have a motion to pull that item off the table, and then that would need to have a second and be voted on before any discussion.
And that can be done either now or at the next meeting?
Be done at any time. There was no time frame put on the tabling motion.
And as a matter of procedure, Mayor, if it was untabled, discussion would be permitted on whether a workshop is the appropriate direction. I think that's what Councilwoman was asking
If
about.
I may,
So you're making a motion to untable?
yes, so that we can discuss this further.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to untable. Hearing no discussion, we'll start the vote in Ward 2,
Yes.
3,
No, I believe it's still going to be in conflict with Florida State Statute
okay, so
104.31.
no, 4,
No.
5,
This is so we can workshop and
Workshop.
figure out if that's a conflict. Yes.
yes, and 1.
Yes.
So it passes 3-2. All right, so we'll do, so basically your comment is you want to have it at a workshop?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll set that up.
And I'll work with the clerk to schedule that workshop, where if we could return back to my request for a workshop on the
Right.
proposals, I think that.
I don't, while you're talking about that, Mr. Perry, if anybody has any dates they can't do it, why don't you get that to the clerk over the next month? Just because, you know, and I mean, I have no issues doing them later in the afternoon too, if it'll help somehow.
Yeah, I think afternoon would probably
So
make
we
it
can-
easier.
We can do that, so.
And also, I think we should have I don't know if we need to direct the attorney to give us, you know, I don't know exactly what options are available.
Well, there's some options particular now, and also some options of what future things can happen, not against any specifics.
Well, and also, this is going to have to go back to the city charter, which there was an attempt to address some items in the city charter. There were some mistakes that were made in the city charter that questions the whole authority that we're operating under. The question that, basically, this is going to open up a whole can of worms. The city charter was broken during the last attempt. So I'll have discussion on that, because really, if we're talking about the power of the council, we'll talk about it.
All right, moving to council reports, Mr. Sanders?
I believe what you're attempting to do is unethical, political, and perhaps illegal. There's nothing in our charter that says this is possible. Elected officials are elected by the people. And elected officials have the opportunity to be removed from office only by the people. That is what the facts are. And to do that is clearly political on the eve of an election with false and frivolous information that's unsubstantiated. There is no affidavits whatsoever. Nobody can tie any comment to any person. Yet we have multiple affidavits from our police officers against our superiors under sworn testimony that we are not reviewing, and that is what the issue is, and that is what we should be discussing as a council, that why we're not addressing a potential crime in our PD with over half of the police officers afraid to go to work. So what you're accusing,
Please. If you continue, you'll be asked to remove.
oh yeah, he'll remove you, so
Well,
be
we're
careful.
gonna have decorum here.
He's gonna remove me and then remove you. That's how it works in a dictatorship, I understand. That's autocratic. He's in charge of the police department, and he's denying your officers' rights for freedom of speech right today. And that is an intimidation tactic to keep your mouth shut. And that's what he's doing with me, yet I don't play that game. I play transparency game. That everything we do here in this council, everything we do in this building is for the public. Our operations are ran by public money. And there is nothing, let me say it again, nothing that should be hidden from the public. And we're witnessing this in live motion. We're not reporting to the state agency about this. That's ridiculous. I've offered to make a phone call to the FBI. They won't do it. They want this to go down this path that will be investigated forever. And this is not fair to the public. Then now we got a proposed sale of City Hall for something less than what it would cost to replace it with. I say sell City Hall, but we aren't going to give it away. And we're not going to give it away to one of our friends. And so it was $52 million to replace this building by the same economist that said that we were going to have, pie in the sky without any facts to present that. So people, listen, ask questions, find out the truth. Thank you.
Ms. Coachman.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on what you just said in some respects, I did not pull that item off the table for any political reason, but it was to have discussion, because evidently we couldn't have discussion. And I feel like our opinions and our thoughts should be said. So please don't think I was being political, because I feel really in the sense of timing, in this particular situation, there's an election in November. The public will decide. But again, I wanted to see discussion.
But you're influencing the public.
Well,
Yeah.
you
Right
can,
now
you,
on camera, you're influencing the public.
you,
Please
Well,
let her
I didn't-
have her report. So.
okay, that was not my intent. I'm done. I just wanted to say, as always, Ward 5 is alive. It was great discussion today about the recycle situation, because I do get a lot of elderly people calling me, and I always say to them, it's a process, and we're still looking at how to do it better. I'm getting a lot of complaints from citizens about noise, neighbors that are playing loud music on Friday or Saturday nights into the wee hours of the morning, and they feel like they're not getting any response that's helping them. So just, I know BPD, I know you're busy, but we really got to help some of these folks out. And also, I did hear one citizen did contact me. The planning commission was going to be talking about a brewery, and they don't want that kind of thing in their neighborhood. But anyway, speeding, scooters in the neighborhood, I've been hearing it all. I heard something today when we talked Ms. Barnaby, when you mentioned that some of the older neighborhoods don't have HOAs. Something that I would like, and this may be a CRA thing, but to me it's a city thing. Anything CRA is also city. If some of the older neighborhoods, if we could form a type of neighborhood association where there's some kind of unity, and then we can we could probably take care of all these little complaints as if we were able to meet with those little community associations. So I hope that's something we could look at, especially in Ward 5 in some of the older neighborhood areas. Other than that, Ward 5 is alive.
Thank you. Ms. Coker?
Okay. Actually, I've had the same thoughts as Councilman Coachman as far as there is a cost, but you can establish an HOA, but you have to have everyone voting in favor of it. So sometimes that's tough, but I do agree. I think sometimes things could be handled on a neighborhood basis. But anyhow, but I agree with you. If there was an avenue or a way for us to kind of spearhead something like that, I think it could be a good thing. I think it would be community building. With regard to, I am very distressed that we have a third-party report that is identifying behavior is actually just, I mean, we've all witnessed it. The public's witnessed it. And if I saw a report about me like that, I would modify my behavior. But unfortunately, that's not happening. This is not political. I just want, I feel for the staff and the people that are working here in City Hall. And yes, I don't want to be political, but I have to stand up for them as well. We cannot, they are telling us right now they have a toxic work environment. Whatever it takes to stop that, I don't know, but I'm glad we're doing the workshop. The tabling motion was disturbing to me, and I thought sent a very, I wasn't sure that that would be taken very well by the people that we're trying to protect. Beyond that, as far as we've been having an issue, and I know BPD's been on it and Public Works, but the tent city that keeps popping up there at 6th and 1st, I would hope that maybe we could take some environmental strategies over there, maybe trim back some of the vegetation. I don't know. I know that there are people smarter than me that have strategies like that, because that's just such a gateway to our community. I'd really like to see us make sure that doesn't continue. I've had a lot of calls from people about the causeway. And it kind of rings true to the lady that came and talked about our public art piece on the Riverwalk. And I'm concerned because people are purchasing, renting, living on public assets. And I know that the Riverwalk, because I was part of it, and I think there were probably 750 people that were part of the design of that Riverwalk. And it was very curated. And it wasn't a donated piece. That was paid for by the city. I'm sure there were naming opportunities for people that helped support all the efforts. But I don't think we just start, I think maybe it's up to Riverdance to address. Maybe they need to have some kind of barrier there, vegetation, something like that, if the noise is too bad for them. Riversong, whichever one. Oh, sorry, my apologies. But anyhow, I'm concerned about this attitude from people that want to stop the public from using the public lands. Of course, we have to be within reason, but I've had a lot of calls recently, and it's a little bit like, it seems like it's a wave, and I don't know if it's people that are moving here from other areas that, just don't like now when they're here what we've got, so I don't know. And then also, on a very positive note, we are celebrating 100 years of the Bradenton Kiwanis. And if you're not familiar with some of the things, there were very forward-thinking leaders, and they put this together. And at the Performing Arts Center, there's a whole display, but the number of little pebbles that have been thrown into the water and the rippling effect of what they've done for this community in terms of children and families and our community it needs to be lauded. So I hope that you'll take an opportunity to maybe go to their website and see it, and I want to congratulate all of those people for a job well done.
And you say that, one of their first big things was the Boys Club at the time, now Boys and Girls Club, but it's just won the not-for-profit Small Business of the Year. in the
There you
chamber.
go.
So,
Yeah.
There's tons of them. Obviously, that's the one closest to my heart. But
Yeah.
The Boys Club at the time, but no, just, it's great to see, and we've got a great leadership group in there right now that is really celebrating that, and coming October 1st, when that 100-year celebration will be at the convention center, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the Causeway, just since you had brought it up, I think we get a lot of calls on that, and our code enforcement, is on top of it. There's some things we can do, some things we can't do, but, it's a private entity out there doing business, and sometimes success, brings a little bit of headaches, but I think, they are watching it. We have our police department, trying to do things, the sheriff's office in the boats and trying to really protect people, so. It's not, nothing being done, it's just some of the things is success.
It's a public asset.
It's public access. And the Riverwalk, because when we got those letters, and I did state it earlier, I talked with her last year and had a long conversation with her, and again, some of it is, it's a public access they built after, kind of like an airport. You move by an airport, you can't complain about the airplanes, so I mean, it's not that we don't try to do things. I liked your thoughts. Maybe we can get with the Riversong management, and maybe they can put some buffering. But again, then it's gonna block their view to the river.
Well-
So that's what I told her last year, and I know Ross is out there now, but we get a lot of stuff with the trees. They want the trees completely trimmed up now so they can see, but the trees are growing, and, that's discussed. So it's not that all of this isn't factored in, with a lot of the things that are happening, and we do care, but sometimes it's the process, so. Ms. Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the Kiwanis Club of Bradenton has been an influence for good for a long time and have helped a lot of children and families, things that you might not think about. The fact that we have the Manatee Civic Center, that started as a Kiwanis project. The Girl Scout Little House that now belongs to the city, that was a Kiwanis project. So they've done a lot of good for a long time, and we really want to salute them. The Causeway. I still don't understand how people can operate a business on state land without paying anything to the state. I just don't understand that. And we don't have the ability to go out there and tell them that they can't be there. So it's frustrating to me. If you think about how many times you see somebody operating their private business in a state right-of-way, and it's not just the Causeway. I see it, every time I drive anywhere. So I think the state really needs to step up and do something. With regards to neighborhood groups, HOAs sometimes can scare a lot of people off because of the people that are euphemistically referred to as the condo commandos that want to make sure that every little dot and tittle is taken care of. But we have had success in the past with getting neighborhoods together and talking amongst themselves as to what are their problems in their community and what is the best way to address them. And many times you don't need an HOA to do that. So,
Just to collectively.
right, to have the synergy of getting people together to talk about things that's important to them. And then also, Ms. Coachman and I celebrate the fact that Manatee High beat up on the IMG team last week, and then they have a game this week as well. And go Canes, go.
Go Canes, go.
Are you ladies gonna cheerlead?
Ah,
I have to find my pom-pom.
I still have my megaphone.
ah.
Do you need it?
I was gonna, I was gonna say that, but I decided I'd be nice.
Mr. Roth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, my caution earlier was just that, you know, the city could be walking into a possible ethics dilemma. So, that being said, I don't condone behavior that's up here. I think that you all can see how I behave. I would hope that my goal since the day I was elected was to be an example. I'm a Catholic boy from Western Pennsylvania, all right? I've never changed. I'm a Boy Scout. I've never changed. All I've ever tried to do was good for this city. My daughter is an example. My wife is an example. All I try to do is be an honorable citizen. That's, if anyone's accusing me of anything other than that, other people, I'm not responsible. I am not responsible for anybody but this guy right here. And if you have a criticism, I'll take it. I'll examine it. If my behavior needs to modify, I will modify. If I need to apologize, I will apologize. And when I'm right, I will say I'm right.
All right, thank you. First, I want to say scooters. You know, they're everywhere, and I've got a few people commenting and quite a few people happy and looking at it, and you're seeing some things. And one of the things that I think we all have to figure out is we got to be patient to learn the process for the scooters, because, you know, I think, you know, there's going to be some good and some bad as we go through, and we're going to learn through it. But I do see, when I see the positiveness, we were sitting in my office the other day and discussing with a gentleman some things about, you know, some minority-owned businesses and things we can do in our community. And he looks over, and there was 6 people on them going by. And then all of a sudden, another 3 went by, and it's like, wow. And it looked like they were having fun. So, you know, we got to work with it. I know, you know, our police department's going to work with it as positively as we can, and hopefully people will stay safe. You know, there's going to be some things, but some of that's on them. You know, they have to do it their way. So let's be patient with the scooters and keep working forward. I know Mr. Perry, Dr. St. Luce are really working hard to try to figure it out. We're hoping the bikes will come soon. They're working on that because there was some issues with just supply chain. You know, those are very popular, and so those are coming. Then, Mr. Rudisell, I just wanted to ask you, and again, it's something that, you know, is very important to me as far as the transparency and all of that and going through things. We're represented with a lot of the things going on that we're doing, especially with the police department, and there's some rules and laws that I'd like to talk to everybody. But once we get represented and we're going through an investigation, it's better not to talk to people through that. And I know through 112 and 119, and you can mix those and you can try to take parts of them, but I think the best thing for all of us, because there is some charges that can come up if you do something or that. Is that true or not? I just want the facts out there.
Yeah, I mean, when there's an internal investigation that's ongoing, that is confidential and exempt from the public records law. Now, I was mindful of that during the discussion today to make sure that we weren't going into areas that we couldn't get into in a public forum. So, but yes, those investigations are confidential until they are concluded, and so to the extent that council people have access to that information, that should not be disclosed in a public meeting.
All right.
Comment?
Mr. Sanders, yes.
I'm told that that's not true by other council because the chief she doesn't fall under the Policeman's Bill of Rights, and that actually this is an intimidation tactic upon our council that's representing us, Gray, to circumvent people from coming forward. And I would like to have a Attorney General opinion on this. because it's disputed what you just said by other counsel for the police union. And, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to allow some of these people that have bravely come here today to speak, and allow them to speak, since you are their CEO of the police department. Would you allow some of those people to speak?
We had citizen comment at the beginning of the meeting, and that's our policy, and we're going to stay with the
Well,
policy.
you've violated policy before, so you will not allow them to speak?
Mr. Sanders, they could have come at citizen comment. We all had the same opportunity.
But they're here now, and it's only 10 o'clock.
We're moving forward. So that we know, just be careful. There's two different sections, 112 and 119, that I think apply.
Correct.
So also, Tamara, or Madam Clerk, can you pass out that? Mr. Roth, we have now finally got the Riverwalk East Grand Opening information that's out there. And if we'll everybody get a copy and kind of what the synopsis will be. It's 11 to, I think it's go to 2 or 3? 2, yeah. I was thinking 3 for some reason, but you can look. We have opportunity to look at that and realize Braden has done a great job at organizing. We're definitely having, from, it used to be Manatee United Methodist. Now they've changed the name a little bit. We're parking there, having their pastor do the opening prayer. We've got remarks from any public official that wants to. And then when we do the closing prayer, we've asked Reverend Daphne Towns, the director of the Angola Festival, that's a pastor, to close it out. Going to be some with the Manatee High Band, some different bands, and probably have a national anthem sung. But really a great event to memorialize that opening. So just wanted to make sure everybody had that. And then one thing I saw this morning on the news, which I didn't realize, it's 30 years ago today, we had Andrew in South Florida. So 30 years ago today. I think everybody kind of remembers where we were when that happened and how that kind of played through the process and what, there's been 3 Category 5 hurricanes to hit the United States ever. And that was one that hit there. And even though we had a little bit from it, I remember we had a little bit here, but we were nervous at one point. So, yes, Mr. Roth.
I do remember that, and we had a friend that was a family that had the house in the Keys, so we would go down. And I remember the first time I drove through Homestead, thinking what a beautiful, lush, tropical paradise it was with all the nurseries and the trees. And it went down, several times, and then went down after Andrew, and it looked like a nuclear bomb had gone off. There was literally, the ground was scraped except for a few live oaks that were stripped down to post and a few royal palms that were, but beyond that, and maybe a house or two, usually an older one. And, but anyway, yeah, and that's what I always think of when we talk about reserves is, all that stuff had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I think that's pretty much, the one thing I would like to say is obviously, it's the first meeting we've had since, with my mom and that, and then what the city staff and everyone in this building obviously did. And one of the things that was probably, everybody contributed to the food and brought some over during the visitation. And we had so much food, it was overwhelming. Well, we took it to the Manatee High football team that was left the next day, and that's something, when my brothers were playing, my mom would always have the players over and cook for them. So it meant a lot, and had a very interesting event yesterday that came out pretty good, and very lucky that didn't lose my dad yesterday with some situations. So just want to thank everybody for all of their things, and we're going to keep moving forward, and that's one thing that facts and evidence and facts about things and Facebook posts and political things and all that, you know me, look at me, I've been here my whole life. I tell the truth, I do the right things, and it's not about politics. It's about doing the right thing to protect 22 individuals in this city that came forward, and you're the ones that are important to the city, not us, the staff. And as far as what I will do to protect the staff, will go to the ends of the world for that. And that's the most important thing. So we're going to continue going forward with that and do the right things. Mr. Perry, department heads?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.